Okay, guys, so we're continuing solving rational equations. Yesterday was proportions. That's where you have basically one fraction on one side of the equal sign, another fraction on the other side of the equal sign, cross multiply and work it out. Well, here we have two fractions on one side of the equal sign separated with a minus, or in some problems a plus. So that's going to add a little extra level of difficulty to this whole process, but we're going to get through it just fine. Fortunately, most of the problems on this page do have common denominators. I think all of your assignment problems do have common denominators, so that makes it easier. We can combine these two fractions together, and we end up with 5. Now remember that this minus sign distributes. Minus v minus 6 equals 1 over v. So that becomes, let's see, 5 minus 6 is negative 1, so negative v minus 1 over 3v equals 1 over v. So we started out with two fractions, not a scenario where we can cross multiply. But when you combine them, now you have one fraction equals one fraction. Now we can cross multiply. So what we learned yesterday still applies. All right, so let's work this out from here. I'm going to bring down the equal sign. When I cross multiply this way, 3v times 1 is 3v. When I cross multiply this way, something different happens because I have one term multiplied by two terms. Oh shoot, sorry about that. Had a little pop-up and I hit it by mistake. So when I multiply one term by two terms, what I actually have to do is distribute it. I have to do v here and v there. So let me try to write that a little more clear. V times negative v is negative v squared. V times negative 1 is negative v. And so now what I have is a regular equation, but it is quadratic. It's a second degree polynomial. So what that means is we need one side of this equation to equal 0. Now I really hate those negatives, so I'm going to go ahead and add v squared plus v to both sides. And why I do that is it just cancels those negatives out. I get a 0 here. On the other side, I have positive v squared. 3v plus v are like terms. I can make that plus 4v. And now solving a quadratic, as you hopefully recall, involves factoring. This expression has two terms with common factors of v, so you can factor out the v, and that pulls out to give you v plus 4. Once you have it factored, you set each factor equal to 0. So 0 equals v, 0 equals v plus 4, and then solve those. Well, this first one's already solved. This one, all I have to do is minus 4, and now that's solved. So it looks like I have two solutions. But if I go check the directions, it says remember to check for extraneous solutions. So that came up in the past when we did other things, and it's coming up again. Sometimes solutions don't work. And this happens here. On this one problem, I'm going to go ahead and cheat and look at the answer key first. Generally, you look at that last, of course. And here, I already have it circled. Negative 4 on number 2 is the only solution. Did I say negative 2? Number 2. Negative 4 on number 2 is the only solution, which means 0 must, for some reason, be extraneous. It gets crossed out. Why would that be? Well, generally, to tell if a solution is extraneous, besides cheating and looking at the answer key, you're supposed to plug it in and see what happens. So I'm going to plug in this 0 and see what happens. Well, right here we have 1 divided by 0. And as you recall, you cannot divide by 0. It's impossible. We call that undefined. In fact, right here, 3 times 0 is 0. So again, we're dividing by 0. And right here, it's ultimately a 0, divide by 0. So you can't divide by 0. 0 is extraneous, which means negative 4 is the only solution. So that's going to be a pattern that comes up over and over. And it turns out checking yourself for extraneous solutions is pretty easy. You don't even have to scroll down and look at the answer key and be tempted by, cheating the system here. All right, let's look at number 4. These are common denominators. We put them together as one fraction over 6v. I have 4v plus 1 minus 1 equals v plus 2 over 2v. Okay, I can combine plus 1 minus 1 and get 4v over 6v equals v plus 2 over 2v. Now I have one fraction on each side. We're allowed to cross multiply. If I cross this way, I get 8v squared. If I cross this way, I'm going to have to distribute. 6v times v is 6v squared, and 6v times plus 2 is plus 12v. All right, that's too many arrows. I'm going to delete those, but again, we distribute. That's kind of important. Now I need to get some like terms together. We also need one side to equal 0, so I'm going to go ahead and subtract 8v squared, and 6 minus 8 is negative 2v squared. I get a negative. I don't love it, but whatever. Plus 12v. We have common factors here, so I can factor out, well, I can factor out a v. I can also factor out a 2. So if I factor out 2v, I get negative v plus 6. Once again, set this factor equal to 0 and set this factor equal to 0 and solve it. The one on the left, you just divide by 2, v equals 0. There's one solution. On this one over here on the right, I think if I just add v to both sides to cancel that negative v out, I get v equals 6. There's another solution. Now, in the first problem we did, 0 was extraneous. Do you think 0 will be extraneous again? Go to the original problem. And really, you don't even have to do the whole thing. Just look right here. If I plug in a 0, I get 0 plus 2 over 2 times 0. 2 times 0, of course, is 0. You cannot divide by 0. That's bad. That's undefined. So again, 0 is extraneous. 6 is the only solution. Let's look at number 4 and make sure I'm right. And there it is. All right, number 6. Once again, we do have two fractions separated by minus, but they are fractions with common denominators, so I can put them together. That would give me m plus 2 minus 1 over 2m equals 2 over m. Plus 2 minus 1 are like terms, so if I combine those, I end up with m plus 1 over 2m equals 2 over m. I reach the point where I have fraction equals fraction. That means I am now allowed to cross multiply. I guess I didn't mention it before, but if you try to do some sort of version of cross multiply at this step, it all falls apart. You get just nonsense answers that don't work at all. So that being said, let's cross multiply. So here's my equals, oops, don't want that. Here's my equal sign. Cross multiply this way. 2m times 2 is 4m. Cross multiply this way. I have to distribute. M times m is m squared. M times plus 1 is plus 1m. Once again, I have a quadratic. I want one side to be 0. I have like terms, so I'm going to subtract 4m over to here to get a 0. And I end up with m squared minus 3m. I can factor out a common m. That gives me m minus 3. Set each factor equal to 0. M equals 0. M minus 3 equals 0. This is already solved. The m is isolated. Add 3. M equals 3. Is either of those extraneous? Now, technically, I suppose we should be plugging in the 3 to make sure that works, but it's not going to be undefined if we do that, so there's really no risk there. But if we plug in a 0, go back to the original problem, if I make this a 0, I have 2 divided by 0, can't do it, can never divide by 0, undefined. So again, that's our extraneous solution. Okay, number 8 is my last one. This is a short assignment. It's 2 pages. I gave a lot of room to write, but only 4 problems. Now, my number 8 does not have like or common denominators anymore. This one's common with that one, but they're on opposite sides of the equal sign, so that doesn't really matter. These are not common denominators, so I'm going to have to do a little extra work here. The one that you have to do does have common denominators still, so you'll be fine on that one. But still, go ahead and watch this and make sure you understand how to do it. So if a common denominator for x squared and x is going to be x squared. So this one, I don't have to change at all. It's already common, it's already x squared, so that 3 I do not have to change at all. It's going to stay the same. But then the question comes up, how do you change an x into an x squared? To do that, you would have to multiply it by another x. X times x is x squared, so you have to multiply the top by x. X times 1 is x. And then just bring this down. Now I can combine these together. They're both over x squared, and I get 3 minus x equals 1 over x squared. Now when I cross multiply, this is going to be weird. It's going to be different. Okay. Cross multiply this way, x squared times 1 is x squared. Cross multiply this way, I'm going to distribute x squared times 3, 3x squared. X squared times minus x is minus x cubed. Okay, so that hasn't happened, but it's okay. I don't like all those arrows, so I'm going to delete them. Okay, now let's get like terms together. We have x squared here and x squared there. To get them together, I'm going to subtract x squared, have 0 on one side. So those cancel out. I get 0. There's my equal sign over here. 3x squared minus x squared is 2x squared. And then bring down the minus x cubed. Now I need to factor this. What can I factor out of both of those terms? Do you know? You can factor out an x squared. If you take the x squared out of 2x squared, it just leaves a 2. If you take the x squared out of x cubed, it's going to leave x to the first, or just a regular x. Now I need to set each one of these factors equal to 0. X squared equals 0, 2 minus x equals 0, and solve them. To solve the first one, I square root both sides. The square root of 0 is 0. On this other one, I can just add x to both sides. 2 equals x. So I have two solutions here, 0 and 2. And how much you want to bet that 0 is extraneous? Well, let's just look. Yeah, go to any part of this original problem. If you plug in a 0 here, or here, or here, you divide by 0, divide by 0, divide by 0. That's undefined. You cannot divide by 0. So 0 is extraneous. Cross that out. And 2 is the only answer. Let me check number 8. And there it is. Did I check number 6 and then I got 3? Yeah, we're good. Okay, so all of yours have common denominators. One of mine didn't, and you saw the extra steps there. Hopefully it's all good with you. So please do the odds, check your work, look out for the extraneous solutions, show your work. I'm getting more and more assignments turned in without people showing work. I'm sending those back with zeros. You can resubmit, but if I don't see at least some of these steps, it doesn't have to be everything exactly how I do it. I understand people do things their own way, but you got to have something down. There's no way you can look at this problem and just know the answer. You've got to show your work. Okay, I'll stop there. Good luck on this. Contact me through the usual means if you have any questions. Bye-bye.